In this week's video, Blue Line RV Adventures takes you to not one, but two historical parks in Central Texas commemorating the early life and then later presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson, or LBJ as he was commonly referred to. Lyndon Johnson was America's 36th president from 1963 to 1969. As vice president, he assumed the office of the president on November the 22nd, 1963, when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. LBJ was immediately thrust into a turbulent time as the American president, with the conflict in Vietnam growing by the month, the investigation into President Kennedy's death, the growing Cold War with the Soviet Union, and the United States still reeling from the Cuban Missile Crisis, probably the closest the U.S. and Soviet Union had ever come to an all-out nuclear war. Born and raised in Texas, LBJ often used to retreat from the politics of Washington, D.C., and fly to what was dubbed the Western White House, his childhood home just outside of Johnson City, Texas. And yes, Johnson City is named after President Johnson's family, more precisely, his great-uncle, James Polk Johnson, who founded the community in 1879. Because Air Force One was too large to land at LBJ's Texas ranch, he would often fly into one of the local nearby Air Force bases, then commute in a modified stretched Learjet the rest of the way to the ranch. The entire park area technically consists of two separate parks. There is the Lyndon B. Johnson State Historical Park, which formally opened in 1970, and the Lyndon B. Johnson National Historic Park opened in 1969 and operated by the U.S. Park Service. The two parks are separated by the Pedernales River, with the U.S. Federal Park on one side and the Texas State Park on the other. So what's the difference between the two parks? The Texas Park has a restored home of where LBJ was born and raised, along with several other homes belonging to relatives and neighbors living in the nearby area, each of which have been fully restored. There is also a large visitor center on the Texas side of the state park. And like all Texas state parks, you can fish here for free without a fishing license, but that's only on the Texas side of the park. Don't do it on the other side of the Pedernales River on the federal side. There are strict rules governing fishing on federal lands. The U.S. Parks Department side has the original landing strip and hangar for what was known as Little Air Force One. The LBJ Ranch was referred to as the Little White House, and in case you were wondering, yes, it is still an operational ranch with many cattle. In the national park, you will also find the burial sites for LBJ, his wife Lady Bird, and several close relatives. Due to COVID restrictions at the time, Karen and I were unable to tour the inside of these buildings, and recently the main house has been closed until further notice due to structural issues, despite the outside of the home being very beautiful. LBJ used this home often during his presidency to meet with staff, world leaders, and to introduce them to a good old-fashioned Texas barbecue. Now the public can tour both of these beautiful parks totally free and take a trip back in time. And right now we are walking down the nature trail, the wildlife nature trail of the park. There's supposed to be some white-tailed deer in the area, although we haven't seen any. And then there's a fence over here where there's supposed to be some longhorn steers, but we haven't seen those either. But we're going to keep walking and see what we can find. But really, in a beautiful park. And this whole area of Central Texas, Karen and I are really falling in love with it. The hill country, the wineries, really stunningly gorgeous. Now I know why a lot of people from Texas just love the state, because it really, really is quite amazingly beautiful. Anyways, we're going to continue to walk along and see what we can find. And lo and behold, there is a Texas longhorn steer. Right over here, there's a couple of them right here by the fence. That there is a big bull.
He agrees.
So we are at Lyndon B. Johnson's birthplace. It is a stunning farm. His family, if all the places that you could grow up and have the grounded moral character that Lyndon B. Johnson had, you can see where it was forged from. I mean, the surrounding area, the rolling hills, the oak trees, the magnolia trees, the blue sky, and the bluebonnets that must pop up everywhere in the spring and the summer must just be breathtaking. It, by all accounts, he had a really, really humble beginning and life, and it really just, I think it really just carved his character.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word and the skies are not cloudy all day. Oh, hey, oh, lady. Oh, hey, oh, lady.
So this is the birthplace of Lyndon Johnson, and as you see the countryside and the landscape out here, you understand why he had such a love for the environment and wildlife and nature. I mean, it is truly, truly spectacular. And I am super envious that he got to grow up in a small little rural house like this, and this in the background of me was his setting where he grew up. I mean, he played here, he rode horses, he hunted, he fished, and his family was here. It was a close, tight-knit community, and this is really the heartbeat of America right here in Central Texas. So if you like this video or some of our previous videos, make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube. It's totally free, doesn't cost you any money at all, and it really helps Karen and I continue on our journey. Follow us along for the next couple of weeks as we continue to explore the great state of Texas, including a Texas hog hunt, fishing with a professional fishing guide, and also visiting the original home where the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was filmed. That's right. And remember, at Blue Line RV Adventures, we got your six.